So the men fought on like a mass of whirling fire, as swift Antilochus raced a message toward Achilles. Sheltered under his curving beaked ships he found him, foreboding, deep down, all that had come to pass. Agonizing now, he probed his own great heart. Why? Why? Our long-haired Achaeans routed again, driven in terror off the plain to crowd the ships. But why? Dear God, don't bring to pass the grief that haunts my heart, the prophecy that Mother revealed to me one time. She said the best of the Myrmidons, while I lived, would fall at Trojan hands and leave the light of day. And now he's dead. I know it. Menoetius' gallant son, my headstrong friend. And I told Patroclus clearly, once you've beaten off the lethal fire, quick, come back to the chips. You must not battle Hector. As such fears went churning through his mind, the warlord Nestor's son drew near him now, streaming warm tears to give the dreaded message. Son of Peleus, what you must hear from me, what painful news. Would to God it had never happened. Patroclus has fallen. They're fighting over his corpse. He's stripped naked. Hector, with that flashing helmet. Hector has your arms. So the captain reported. A black cloud of grief came shrouding over Achilles, both hands clawing the ground for soot and filth. He poured it over his head, fouled his handsome face, and black ashes settled onto his fresh, clean war shirt. Overpowered in all his power, sprawled in the dust, Achilles lay there, fallen. Tearing his hair, defiling it with his own hands, and the women he and Patroclus carried off as captives caught the grief in their hearts and keened and wailed. Out of the tents they ran to wring the great Achilles. All of them beat their breasts with clenched fists. Sank to the ground, each woman's knees gave way. Antilochus, kneeling near, weeping uncontrollably, clutched Achilles' hands as he wept his proud heart out, for fear he would slash his throat with an iron blade. Achilles suddenly loosed a terrible, wrenching cry, and his noble mother heard him, seated near her father, the old man of the sea in the salt green depth, and she cried out in turn. Hear me, sisters, daughters of Nereus, so you will all know it well. Listen to all the sorrows welling in my heart. I am agony, mother of grief and greatness. Oh, my child, yes, I gave birth to a flawless, mighty son, the splendor of heroes, and he shot up like a young branch, like a fine tree I reared him, the orchard's crowning glory, but only to send him off in the beach ships to Troy, to battle Trojans. Never again will I embrace him, striding home through the doors of Peleus' house. As long as I have him with me, still alive, looking into the sunlight, he's raked with anguish, and I go to his side. Nothing I can do to help him, nothing. But go I shall to see my darling boy, to hear what grief has come to break his heart while he holds back from battle. So Thetis cried as she left the cave, and her sisters swam up with her, all in a tide of tears, and billowing round them now, the groundswell heaved open, and once they reached the fertile land of Troy, they all streamed ashore, row on row in a long cortege, the sea nymphs filing up where Myrmidon ships lay hauled. Cluster closely round the great runner Achilles, as he groaned from the depth. His mother rose before him, and sobbing a sharp cry, cradled her son's head in her hands. And her words were all compassion, winging pity. My child, why in tears? What sorrow has touched your heart? Tell me, please. Don't harbor it deep inside you. Zeus has accomplished everything you wanted, just as you raised your hands and prayed that day. All the sons of Achaea are pinned against the ships, and all for want of you, they suffer shattering losses. And groaning deeply, the matchless runner answered, Oh, dear mother, true. All those burning desires Olympian Zeus has brought to pass for me. But what joy for me now, My comrade's dead. Patroclus, the man I loved beyond all other comrades. Loved him as my life. I've lost him. Hector's killed him. Stripped the gigantic armor off his back, a marvel to behold. And my burnished gear, radiant gifts the gods presented Peleus. That day they drove you into a mortal's marriage bed. I wish you'd lingered with the deathless sea nymphs, lived at ease, and Peleus carried home a mortal bride. But now, as it is, sorrows, unending sorrows, must surge within your heart as well, for your own son's death. Never again will you embrace him, striding home. My spirit rebels. I've lost the will to live, to take my stand in the world of men, unless before all else, Hector's battered down by my spear and gasps his life away, the blood price for Patroclus, Menoetius' gallant son he killed and stripped. But Thetis answered, warning through her tears, You're doomed to a short life, my son, for all you say. For hard on the heels of Hector's death, your death must come at once. Then let me die at once. Achilles burst out, despairing, since it was not my fate to save my dearest comrade from his death. Look, a world away from his fatherland he perished, lacking me, my fighting strength to defend him. But now, since I shall not return to my fatherland, nor did I bring one ray of hope to my Patroclus, nor to the rest of all my steadfast comrades, countless ranks struck down by mighty Hector. No, here I sit by the ships, a useless dead weight on the good green earth. I, no man my equal among the bronze-armed Achaeans, not in battle, only in wars of words that others win. If only strife could die from the lies of gods and men, and anger that drives the sanest man to flare in outrage, bitter gall, sweeter than dripping streams of honey, that swarms in people's chests and blinds like smoke, just like the anger Agamemnon, king of men, has roused within me now. Enough. Let bygones be bygones. Done is done. Despite my anguish, I will beat it down. The fury mounting inside me, down by force. But now, I'll go and meet that murderer, head on, that Hector who destroyed the dearest life I know. For my own death, I'll meet it freely whenever Zeus and the other deathless gods would like to bring it on. Not even Heracles fled his death for all his power, favorite son as he was to Father Zeus the king. Fate crushed him, and Hera's savage anger. And I too, if the same fate waits for me, I'll lie in peace once I've gone down to death. But now, for the moment, let me seize great glory and drive some woman of Troy or deep-breasted Dardan to claw with both hands at her tender cheeks and wipe away her burning tears as the sobs come choking from her throat. They'll learn that I refrained from war a good long time. Don't try to hold me back from fighting, mother. Love me as you do. You can't persuade me now. The goddess of the glistening feet replied, Yes, my son, you're right. No coward's work to save your exhausted friends from headlong death. But your own handsome war gear lies in Trojan hands, bronze and burnished, and Hector in that flashing helmet. Hector glories in your armor, strapped across his back. Not that he'll glory in it long, I tell you, his own destruction hovers over him now. Well, don't fling yourself into the grind of battle yet. Not till you see me coming back with your own eyes. Tomorrow I will return to you with the rising sun, bearing splendid arms from Hephaestus, god of fire. As for Patroclus, there seemed no hope that the Achaeans could drag the corpse of Achilles' comrade out of range. Again the Trojan teams overtook the body, with Hector, son of Priam, storming fierce as fire. 3 times illustrious Hector shouted for support, seized his feet from behind, wild to drag him off. 3 times the Achaeans, armored in battle fury, fought him off the corpse. But Hector held firm, staking all on his massive fighting strength. The helmed Achaeans could no more frighten Hector, the proud son of Priam, back from Patroclus' corpse, than shepherds out in the fields can scare a lion off his kill when the hunger drives the beast claw mad. And now Hector would have hauled the body away and won undying glory. If windswift Iris had not swept from Olympus, bearing her message, Peleus' son must arm, but all unknown to Zeus and the other gods, since Hera sprung her on. Halting near, she gave Achilles a flight of marching orders. "To arms, son of Peleus, most terrifying man alive! Defend Patroclus, it's all for him! This merciless battle pitched before the ships. They're mauling each other now, Achaeans struggling to save the corpse from harm, Trojans charging to haul it back to windy Troy. Flashing Hector's far in the lead, wild to drag it off, furious to lop the head from its soft, tender neck and stake it high on the city's palisade. Up with you, no more laying low, writhe with shame at the thought Patroclus may be sport for the dogs of Troy. Yours, the shame will be yours if your comrade's corpse goes down to the dead defiled. We know, we too, they hold your famous armor. Still, just as you are, go out to the broad trench and show yourself to the Trojans. Struck with fear at the sight of you, they might hold off from attack, and Achaea's fighting sons get second wind, exhausted as they are. Breathing room in war is all too brief. And Iris, racing the wind, went veering off as Achilles, Zeus's favorite fighter, rose up now, and over his powerful shoulders Pallas slung the shield, the tremendous storm shield with all its tassels flaring. And crowning his head, the goddess swept a golden cloud, and from it she lit a fire to blaze across the field. So from Achilles' head the blaze shot up the sky. He strode from the rampart, took his stand at the trench, but he would not mix with the milling Argive ranks. He stood in awe of his mother's strict command. So there he rose and loosed an enormous cry, and off in the distance Pallas shrieked out too, and drove unearthly panic through the Trojans. The brilliant Achilles gave his great cry over the trench. 3 times the Trojans and famous allies whirled in panic, and 12 of their finest fighters died then and there, crushed by chariots, impaled on their own spears. And now the exultant Argives seized the chance to drag Patroclus' body quickly out of range and laid him on a litter. Standing round him, loving comrades mourned, and the swift runner Achilles joined them, grieving, weeping warm tears when he saw his steadfast comrade lying dead on the bier, mauled by tearing bronze, the man he sent to war with team and chariot, but never welcomed home again alive. Achaea's warlords clustered around Achilles, begging him to eat. He only spurned them, groaning, "I beg you, if any comrade will hear me out in this, stop pressing me now to gut myself with food and drink. Now such painful grief has come and struck my heart. I'll hold out till the sun goes down, enduring, fasting despite your appeals." His voice so firm that Achilles caused the other kings to scatter, but the 2 Atreides stayed, and good Odysseus, Nestor, Idomeneus, Phoenix the old charioteer, all trying to comfort Achilles deep in sorrow. But no comfort could reach the fighter's heart, till he went striding into the jaws of bloody war. Sighs heaved from his depth as Achilles burst forth. "Oh God, time and again, my doomed, my dearest friend, you would set before us a seasoned meal yourself, here in our tents, in your quick and expert way, when Argive forces rushed to fight the Trojans, stampeding those breakers of horses into rout. But now you lie before me, hacked to pieces here, while the heart within me fasts from food and drink. Those stores inside are full. I'm sick with longing for you. There is no more shattering blow that I could suffer, not even if I should learn of my own father's death, who this moment is weeping warm tears and fire. I know it, bereft of a son as loved as this. and here I am in a distant land fighting Trojans, and all for that blood-chilling horror, Helen. Or the death of any dear son, reared for me in Skyros. If Prince Neoptolemus is still among the living, till now I'd hope with all my heart that I alone would die, far from the stallion land of Argos, here in Troy. But you, Patroclus, would journey back to Phthia, and then you'd ferry Neoptolemus home from Skyros, fast in your black ship, and show him all my wealth, my serving men, my great house, with the high vaulting roof. For father, I fear, if he is not dead and buried yet, just clings, perhaps, to some last breath of life. Ground down now by the hateful siege of years, waiting day after day for painful news of me, until he learns his only son is dead. His voice rang out in tears, and the warlords mourned in answer, each remembering those he had left behind at home. Seeing their grief, the father, filled with pity, quickly turned to Athena with winging words. "My child, have you abandoned him forever, your favorite man of war? Is he lost to you now? No more care for Achilles left inside your heart? There he huddles before his curving beak ships, raked with grief for his dear friend, while others scatter, settling down to their meals. He's fasting, never fed. Go, run and instill some nectar and sweet ambrosia deep within his chest. Stave off his hunger now." So he urged Athena, already poised for action. Down the skies she swooped, through the clear, bright air, like a shrieking, sharp-winged hawk. And while Achaeans quickly armed throughout the encampment, she instilled some nectar and sweet ambrosia deep in Achilles' chest, so the stabbing pangs of hunger could not sap his strength. As dawn rose up in her golden robes from the ocean's tides, bringing light to immortal gods and mortal men, Thetis sped Hephaestus' gifts to the ships. She found her beloved son lying face down, embracing Patroclus' body, sobbing, wailing, and round him crowded troops of mourning comrades. And the glistening goddess, moved among them now, seized Achilles' hands and urged him, spoke his name. "My child, leave your friend there to lie dead. We must, though it breaks our hearts. The will of the gods has crushed him once and for all. But here, Achilles, accept this glorious armor. Look, a gift from the god of fire. Burnished, bright, finer than any mortal has ever borne across his back." Urging, the goddess laid the armor down at Achilles' feet, and the gear clashed out in all its blazoned glory. A tremor ran through all the Myrmidon ranks. None dared to look straight at the glare. Each fighter shrank away. Not Achilles. The more he gazed, the deeper his anger went, his eyes flashing under his eyelids, fierce as fire, exulting, holding the gods' shining gifts in his hands. The glory of armor lit the skies, and the whole earth laughed. Rippling under the glitter of bronze, thunder resounding under the trampling feet of armies. And in their midst, the brilliant Achilles began to arm for battle. A sound of grinding came from the fighter's teeth. His eyes blazed forth in searing points of fire. Unbearable grief came surging through his heart, and now, bursting with rage against the men of Troy, he donned Hephaestus' gifts. Magnificent armor the god of fire forged with all his skill. First, he wrapped his legs with the well-made greaves, fastened behind his heels with silver ankle clasps. Next, he strapped the breastplate round his chest. Then, over his shoulders, Achilles slung his sword, the fine bronze blade with the silver-studded hilt. Then hoisted the massive shield, flashing far and wide like a full round moon. And gleaming bright, as the light that reaches sailors out at sea, the flare of a watchfire burning strong in a lonely sheepfold up some mountain slope, when the gale winds hurl the crew that fights against them far over the fish-swarming sea, far from loved ones. So the gleam from Achilles' well-wrought blazoned shield shot up and hit the skies. Then, lifting his rugged helmet, he set it down on his brow, and the horse-tail crest shone like a star, and the waving golden plumes shook that Hephaestus drove in, bristling thick along its ridge. And brilliant Achilles tested himself in all his gear. Achilles spun on his heels to see if it fitted tightly, see if his shining limbs ran free within it. Yes, and it felt like buoyant wings lifting the great captain. And then, last, Achilles drew his father's spear from its socketed stand. Weighted, heavy, tough. No other Achaean fighter could heft that shaft. Only Achilles had the skill to wield it well. Pelian ash it was, a gift to his father Peleus, presented by Chiron once, hewn on Pelian's crest, to be the death of heroes. Now the war team. Automedon leapt aboard behind the team, and behind him Achilles struck his stance, helmed for battle now. Glittering in his armor like the sun astride the skies, his ringing, daunting voice commanding his father's horses. Roan beauty and charger, illustrious foals of Lightfoot, try hard, do better this time. Bring your charioteer back home alive to his waiting Argive comrades, ones we're through with fighting. Don't leave Achilles there on the battlefield as you left Patroclus, dead. And Roan Beauty, the horse with flashing hooves, spoke out from under the yoke, bowing his head low, so his full mane came streaming down the yoke paths, down along the yoke to sweep the ground. The white-armed goddess Hera gave him voice. Yes, we will save your life this time too, master, mighty Achilles. But the day of death already hovers near, and we are not to blame, but a great God is, and the strong force of fate. Not through our want of speed or any lack of care did the Trojans strip the armor off Patroclus' back. It was all that matchless god, sleek-haired Leto's son. He killed him among the champions and handed Hector glory. Our team could race with the rush of the west wind, the strongest, swiftest blast on earth, men say. Still you are doomed to die by force, Achilles, cut down by a deathless god and mortal man. He said no more. The fury struck him dumb. But the fiery runner Achilles burst out in anger. Why, Roan Beauty? Why prophesy my doom? Don't waste your breath. I know, well I know, I'm destined to die here, far from my dear father, far from mother. But all the same, I will never stop till I drive the Trojans to their bloody fill of war. A high stabbing cry, and out in the front ranks he drove his plunging stallions.